back up what Ms. Enz is saying. I find too many times we make camels when we need to make horses. Camel, of course, is a horse made by committee. And especially in something like this where you're talking about artists who have vision, and artists sometimes can be tough to work with because they have their vision, and they don't like people messing with it. So I recognize that this board and the community might want to have something that involves red flannel and this and that and all these things that are local to us. But I don't want to create a camel. If the artist has something that is in their vision and is acceptable to the board with maybe minor modification, that might be the best course of action. This board seems to want to, and is tasked with, spending public money for public art. I don't think this will be the last mural. I think if one mural goes up, you're going to see a lot of people saying, wow, that looks great, where's the second one going? So I think at some point the process exists. Ms. Ensley and the subcommittee put the work into it, and once they get that first one up, I think you're going to see a lot more interest moving forward.
I agree too. There's just, you go to the internet and see those beautiful murals. They're just fantastic. But we have to be real sensitive that we're spending public money. And there's just a lot of things we could do that aren't, like you said, wrapped up in history or whatever, that they're just beautiful to look at. Maybe they're geometric designs or flowers or something that probably everyone can enjoy to some degree, but it's a difficult decision.
So let me just jump in for half a second. So I drove through downtown Sparta the other day, and I noticed a mural had been put up that I'd never noticed before. And I apologize to Sparta, but I can't remember what it was about. It's a mural. It's on a wall. There's no specific element to it. It's just a pleasant scene to look at. Whereas, at least in my opinion, if you're going to put a mural out there, it should have something that you say, I remember it was blank. It reminded me of whatever. It had a lumberjack on the whatever,
And you remember where you saw it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Similar too, I just got back from West Virginia. And in West Virginia, of course, the coal mining. And we were in their little local downtown area. It was the same thing. They had the most beautiful mural. And it was a train with coal. And I mean, it was done gorgeous. But again, it stated what was from that area. And it was very attractive. There was people taking pictures next to it. So I think you have to pull out that kind of thing.
I did see one that was just the name of the city. Say it was Cedar Springs. And there was, yeah, and it was just so, done so beautifully, and the designs around it. And I just thought, there it is, Cedar Springs. What else could we want? What else would our people be proud of to see?
Well,
and it was done in a beautiful way.
And so that's, I think the issue that Ms. Ensley's having is that sounds great, Rose. If you get it put on paper and you bring it to the subcommittee, right? But you don't, and I'm not saying that negatively. It requires work. It requires you to have artists who submit stuff so that you can bring it to the board and say, this is what I'm thinking about.
But this is kind of what we're looking at.
If you guys ever drive to Preston Heights, I'm there a lot, my daughter lives there. They have some of the most amazing murals. I mean, and they are not anything about...
privately done.
Yeah,
a friend of mine owns a couple of those buildings that they did on their own. It's awesome.
Yeah, because the guy that did Green's Crossing is the one that submitted on art. Right? I mean, and so if we just set them loose and just say, do whatever you want, it really is probably going to be astounding.
But I think really, at this point, if you have a couple submissions, then what we may want to do is put that on a future agenda, and we'll consider that, and we have a choice to either accept one of them with minor modifications or accept as is, or table it for now and come back perhaps in the spring and try again to get submissions. But I think to Michael's point that we may need to make a decision one way or the other.
Yeah, I think
so you give them an answer.
Yeah, because I feel bad that,
Right.
going back to them and saying, okay, we're not gonna see that. You know, and Kirkwood's gonna have something for me today, but he was drawing it on a big foam board and his dog looked on it, shattered it.
So I did hear back from a girl I graduated high school, she teaches commercial art. She's an artist. She has this big student body. She said that if we wanted to, she could put it up as a kind of a competition for her students. They could develop samples, we could pick one, and then those individuals could come here in the summer and work out of it. They're in Ottawa County, so they'd have to travel, so it has to be summer.
And it could also be for next year, Merle.
Right.
Yeah.
But she said they'd be very open to it, so if she jumps on it right away like that, Kendall might too, so we could get a few different schools and then pick
I
the best.
submitted to Kendall, I submitted to U of M, I mean, I submitted to some of the top.
And they didn't.
No.
My opinion on that, you're gonna get a lot of tired Kirkers. They all got big fancy ideas and nothing's gonna become a fruitation. That's just my opinion on that kind of stuff. That sounds kind of negative, but I've been around the block a couple times. It's just like the yearbooks they put together today. They don't look nothing like they did when I was in school and we had a guy named Mr. Welch in charge. Nobody really takes charge and puts all that effort into it like they used to. I think I just think that'd be a nightmare.
I think I would agree with you insofar as we're talking about students in high school who've never done one before or something like that. But the muralists who've done it before, and they have samples that they can show you, I don't think we should ever discount that because they've proven themselves.
Yeah, the two that we have currently are from muralists that, actually, one of them is from Cedar and he does the murals at high school, and then the other one is the guy that does all of them for Hopcat.
And again, if we put this in the previous agenda, bring the two up and see if the board likes it. So, yeah.
I wouldn't discount young people. If you guys ever get a chance, go drive over to Rockford High School and look at the senior parking lot. Every senior buys their own parking space and they paint a mural on it.
Cool.
And there are some very talented artists that you can find in the high school. It doesn't matter how old they are.
Now, let me correct myself. I don't mean to belabor the point, but I think there's a big difference between a mural that's going to be 200 square feet and 10 feet in the air versus 10 square feet on the side of a building where you can reach it.
Use a projector and a grid pattern to lay it out. I've known people in high school art classes that did some great murals back in the 80s, and you just do it on a grid system.
This is why I still do stick figures.
But they're in the commercial arts program. When they leave, they have the equivalent of a 2-year associate's degree in commercial art. They're just talented.
Is the idea here, though, to ultimately do several murals in town?
I guess I don't have a feeling one or the other. I work for you guys. I'm just kind of helping maybe servant leadership some of this. This board doesn't have to spend money on murals at all. The other option was to put banners up and down Main Street. So if this board likes the idea, especially if you're in a situation where you're having business owners saying, hey, I got this plain wall here. If this board puts in $5,000, I put in $3,000 more, you get an $8,000 mural for $5,000.
I just don't think we should hurry into this. Let's take our time. We'll get it done. But we have to be very careful about what we put up there because it's public money. And we don't want to get beat up by everybody in Cedar Springs because they hate it, so.
We'll get beat up.
Well, maybe not like everybody. No, I don't.
It would bring a lot of people.
Like I said, we certainly can consider it different with the alternatives of saying yay, nay, or going back to banners.
Okay. So I'll work with the subcommittee then to bring this back at your next meeting.
All right, sign committee update, which I think we're really just in a holding pattern. We have, if the other signs are ordered, then.
So I put this on your agenda previous to discussing it with the DDA director, because I had not heard an update, but he's told me now twice that the signs have been ordered and they should be arriving.
Great. And once those are in, then we would decide whether that committee still needs to maintain. I think most of the ones that we had talked about or recommended were.
I think most of them are ordered, not
I
all of
think we
them.
need a few more, so, in the spring.
You could also push it to the spring, yeah.
There's a couple more.
Amphitheater policy discussion. There is a meeting at City Hall on November 18th. And then discussion of what types of events we organize and how to pay for them.
Yep, so I've been working with the comments I've received from various members of the public and boards to kind of further develop the policy. Unfortunately, I've been busy with other things this month, so I haven't put as much work into it as I'd like to. I will hope to have another draft at that meeting ready for review. It's going to be an ongoing thing until the spring. However, what I'm hoping to get out of this meeting is figuring out what types of events we want to bring in, like actual specific bands or string quartets or movies or whatever. Who's going to be tasked with organizing that particular event, which date we're looking to hold that event, and how to pay for it. So if you're interested in, helping answer some of those questions, or if you would like to just say, hey, I'd be interested on this date, let me know and I'll put you down for that date and we'll go from there. But I do want to have a slate full of events at that amphitheater for next year.
When do you want to have the?
So the meeting is going to be November 18th here at City Hall at 9 o'clock in the morning. But obviously it's an ongoing thing. If you have thoughts about, I'd like to hold my event, this is what the event's going to be, I'm paying for it, this is the date, please let me know so we start having an idea of this is what we're planning for next year.
So I know you said you wanted a slate, but I didn't know if you had a date when you wanted to have that slated by.
So I haven't gotten funding from the city council yet for the city's planning for events. Of course, I've got wild ideas of what I'd like to do as well, but I'm hoping to maybe sponsor 2 or 3 events from the city. So if we can fill in the dates that we're not doing things with other events on weekends or midweek or whatever, it'd be just nice to know what the community's thinking about.
So I know like at the chamber, they said they have their annual board of directors meeting where they set what events they're having for the year, usually in February. So it'll be February before the chamber would come up with their events.
Good. Well, I'd love to do it before that time. I'm not sure I'll have the time to do it before that time. So we'll make sure that the chamber works together with the city to develop events.
I know I've asked this before, I don't think I've ever really gotten a clear answer, though. With the use policy and guidelines, are these fixed or are these waivable with a community event status?
What you currently have in front of you is the first draft.
It hasn't been changed since I've given my comments previously, that's why.
No, so I tried to work on it, but I just hadn't had the time. I've obviously heard what the members of the public would like to see it say, and obviously drafts are drafts. I put together a new draft, I put it in front of the council, they give me their comments, and they say, oh, yeah, we like this better. So
There hasn't been any changes since we had discussed this previously, and obviously I will be at that meeting upcoming.
Nothing that's publicly available yet.
I'm sorry.
Nothing that has been made publicly available yet. So I put together.
There are some concerns, as you know.
I'm aware. I am putting together new language, and I'll present that, and the council can do what council wants to do.
Fair enough. Any other discussion on the amphitheater? Move on to new business. Discuss a resolution for our future meeting dates. I believe those were in the packet as well. Page 73 in your packet.
Keep scrolling, keep scrolling.
There is a
thing at the top. Put the thing at the top.
I used the back, you guys. Outdated. Holy cow.
These are our old ones.
While everybody's looking at the dates, there is a part of your PDF that you can hit, which will bring up all the documents in it. So you just click on that, it'll take you right to that right page. I can show all you old timers how to do it.
question on that date is December 28th being right between the holidays. Whether we want to move that forward a week.
Like December 2 or January 2.
Or we could either move it, we could either move it afterwards or the 14th or the 21st to avoid some of the holiday crunch for folks.
Or if it's not needed, because
Or potentially,
Nothing. A date like that, especially in December, I'd almost certainly want to cancel it at that point unless there's something else going on. So,
So you're getting right after Thanksgiving, that's going to be late, I think the 28th, 29th.
it's a week after at least, but yes.
People travel for the holiday.
so the clerk is just looking for any strong objections, and then she'll bring back the final draft for next meeting.
You guys have mentioned maybe not doing monthly. Now would be the chance to kind of discuss what you want to do for the next year as far as how frequently you'd like to meet. I just put notes in there as far as the things that normally happen in each meeting. And then you can choose to, when you'd like to set your informational meetings, if you'd like to change them from what's presented. Now would be your opportunity to do that.
what if we had like the ones we had highlighted, them are the ones we want to make sure we have, right? And then some of the other ones we wouldn't necessarily need to, so if we schedule the ones we needed to, and then if we need more later, we can add in, right?
You can, yeah, you just have to do special meeting notices and so forth.
Do you have the informational meetings designated in here? Because I'm not.
Yes, so the little infinity sign is designated that they're informational, and those are presented as January and March.
Okay, got it.
You already have to meet in January for your reorganizational meeting, and you also have to set your budget at the March meeting, and that's why I suggested those two, because you already have to meet for those dates.
I would also point out, Mr. Hopkins, that it's easier to cancel a meeting versus creating a meeting.
That was really one of my, originally this was a quarterly, this when I joined the board, it was a quarterly deal, which was adequate at that time, but we had no money to spend then. There's obviously more to do, but, we may consider canceling some of these if there's not a lot on the agenda. But otherwise, it looks good with me, like I said, other than the holiday conflicts.
So does this board want to pick a new December date, or do you want to leave it the way it is? And or November?
We've got December 21.
I say just leave it out there and cancel
Yeah.
if we need to.
Cancel.
I would suggest maybe we move the December 1 to December 21st, and then we can also cancel it if we need to, but at least it's on the calendar for the week ahead. Whether in between the holidays, we know it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, not much happens between the 22nd and the 3rd.
So is that okay with everybody, or?
Yeah, no, I think.
We'll pencil it in then, if we want to cancel it, we can, but, so, I would say 21st on that, as a skip calendar date. You need a motion?
Nope, we can bring it back to your next meeting.
Great, Hudsonville pedestrian crossing ordinance and a discussion on pedestrian safety.
So, we are fortuitous insofar as Hudsonville passed a pedestrian crossing ordinance just a couple weeks back. So I was able to have their city manager send that over to me. I know this board has discussed this in the past. I think it's not quite right. It's not quite the right time to do this, but it's certainly something we could do in the future. As this board probably knows, but I haven't specifically stated it, the long-term goal is to put curb bump out for curb bulbs on Main Street. That would be similar to what we did on the White Pine Trail in Muskegon. We put up the delineators to create a safety island, and we could use that on Main Street as well. So currently, curb to curb on Main Street is 45 feet. If we put these curb bump outs in, you basically take in the width of the parked car on either side, which is about 9 foot each. So you reduce that now from 45 foot to 27 foot. So it's substantially less time that you'd have to be in the danger zone of the road. It also creates a much higher visibility of the pedestrian standing there, so motorists can see them, and so they can see motorists. So that is the city's at least long-term goal for pedestrian safety on Main Street. We did discuss the Hawk system. For anyone who's not familiar with the Hawk system, it looks like the traffic signal, except for pedestrians only. User actuated, very expensive. They're between $50,000 and $75,000. So, plus, I think the city council would argue that we don't want to necessarily stop traffic on Main Street. We do want to make it safe for pedestrians to cross, but when you start stopping vehicles on Main Street, it causes other problems. So we may want to explore this ordinance in the future after we see what the impact of the curb bump outs might be. And of course, once you have an ordinance like this in place, you can then do what this board's favorite thing is, and that's put those little things in the middle of the road saying must stop for pedestrians. But you can't really do that without an ordinance in place. So.
Isn't this a state ordinance already?
No. So the state ordinance is interesting. So the state ordinance, state statute basically says that the cars have right of way unless the pedestrian's already in the travel lane. Well, so obviously I think the thought process there is they don't want to encourage people to step out in front of a 40-ton truck doing 30 miles an hour because the truck might not be able to stop. So if they're already in the roadway, yes, they have the right of way, obviously, but they're not being encouraged to step off the curb into the road.
Would it not a lower cost option be simply to put the flappers out there on some of the crosswalks and try it? Because that will slow motorists down, it will make them more aware without having to go to the expense of moving curbs. And
Last week, a 56-year-old couple walked out of a restaurant in downtown Grand Rapids, and they were run over and killed, both of them. And if we can put something out for $200 that prevents that, I say why not try it?
Well, because there's a few things that are preventing it. First of all, we don't have an ordinance that says you have to stop or yield to pedestrians in the city. We just don't. I'm not going to put I'm not going to put a sign out there saying you must yield by state or by local law when we don't have a local law, which is part of the reason I'm
what if
bringing
a
this.
citizen did that?
I'm sorry?
What if a citizen did
It'd be removed as being an obstruction in my road. So, we do have a plan. I'm not opposed to this in the future. I just don't think it's right yet. I think the curb bump outs are the next logical step. Now, I should point out, we're not talking about the actual curbs being pushed out. We're talking about using delineators, similar to what we did on Main Street. So you're talking about $1,000 per intersection instead of the, I'm sorry, Mayor Hall, do you remember what the number was for the curb bump outs with concrete? It was something like $40,000 to $50,000 per intersection. So it's a substantial cost to do it curbing at the intersections. And part of the reason we don't want to do that either is because we're going to have a substantial road project both in 2021 and 2023 on Main Street. So we're hoping that at those dates, we could then maybe, if the citizens tolerate it, and if we see it's a benefit to the downtown businesses, to then do the actual curbing for the bump outs. So this would be delineator curb bump outs, see how it turns out.
Then those prevent, if you have someone turning left, northbound turning left off of Main onto Maple, for example, and there are no pedestrians present, would motorists still be able to go around the left-hand turn, or are they going to be waiting?
So you're saying passing on the right, which they're not legally allowed to do right now anyways? So yes, it would prevent them from passing on the right.
Did you have any other comments?
Yes, well, I was just gonna iterate like what he was talking about, in light of that thing here a couple of years ago about, you can't really, stop traffic on Main Thoroughway unless you have a city ordinance to, because otherwise, right now, state law allows the pedestrians have to stop the vehicle. It's supposed to be on the side streets. It was different if there was an ordinance in the city where the drivers had to yield for pedestrians.
So our road is considered our Main Street is a main thoroughfare?
Yes.
I did make a phone call, I think it was last meeting, I called up there to high grade. I know I'm a little more concerns. We get a bad name in town, and, he said, he mentioned it, put a note on the bulletin board
Part of this is incrementalism. I talked
that?
part of this whole process is incrementalism. We have to teach the public to slow down from what they've been doing for years. And we've got the solar radar speed sign ready to go. We just received it the other day. The DPW director went through the manual and said, oh geez, there's a lot of requirements because it's solar. You gotta make sure that there's not shadow coming down on it. It's gotta be facing the southbound traffic, somewhere north of the bridge. So he's trying to figure out the best location for it, but we're hoping to have that up sometime during the winter. I just think, and I'm not opposed to this. This is certainly an option. And the little signs in the roadways are certainly an option. But I think we need to get there eventually.
So you recommend that we adopt this policy?
So this would be an ordinance. This is an ordinance that was passed by the other city. We could change the names and adopt it here. I don't think we're ready for that, because I don't want to encourage pedestrians to step out in front of traffic until we get traffic down to 25 miles per hour. I think the smarter policy is the curb bump outs, the radar speed sign, and then once we've got traffic kind of slowed down, then we can pass a local ordinance saying you got to stop for people.
You can say we're taking baby, we should be taking baby steps.
What do you envision as a timeline on this?
I'm hoping to have a plan for curb bump outs in the spring.
Okay, and then an ordinance would follow
Potentially late summer or fall, depending on how the public adapts to the curb bump outs.
I was glad to see there were 788 traffic stops last month.
Yep, they do quite a bit of traffic stops. They've never stopped me though, so.
Me either, I got
They,
it.
they, they could probably get a few of them if they sit there with Second Street and Maple, facing the Lake Lake Trail.
Sergeant Phillips, yeah.
I ain't taking my word, I'm talking about some other people.
Take care of
I
it.
do like those bump holes over there on 17-mile road, I just,
It slows traffic down.
How is, you could do those, but we can't do them on this street.
Well, it's not that we can't. It's that's a 3-lane road. And so we're not really taking a travel lane away. That's a turning lane. But we wouldn't be doing that here either. We'd be taking a parking spot, not the lane itself. But when you start putting up the little sign saying you must stop the pedestrians, that could cause stoppage from traffic. So I haven't quite figured that part out yet.
Actually, in some of the spots, you'd be taking the no parking space away.
Sure.
That people tend to park in, even though it's technically not a, that's not in front of the fire hydrant on his side of the road, and that's not mine, people can always are parking there.
Yep. So the only other real question about the curb bump outs I have at this time is whether we do all of the intersections, or do we only do some of them? Because right now, I would say that Maple and Ash are probably the busiest 2 intersections for pedestrians.
Cherry Street.
As a calming devices.
Well, we have to consider the fact that the fire barn, or fire station, is gonna be moved down there. They'll be coming out on Ash or Elm.
I think all.
You know where they're going.
They're going, on Elm and going out to Main Street.
Well, it depends on which direction they're headed.
Well, if they're headed out to Main Street.
Elm
North or
Street.
south, even.
Yeah, they'd be exiting on Elm Street.
But I've seen in other cities where they have a emergency light that lights up. You know, you don't really know when that fire truck's gonna shoot out of there. They don't know what's going on. It would be a good idea to have something there.
It might not be a good idea to put the curb bump outs at the corner of Elm and Main either, if it tightens the turning radius for a large vehicle.
Right.
I think the place you need one right now, the brewery to start with, see how they work. Because that to me is high traffic area in town and be a good place to start.
And
I
the
think
truck
that
is
would be a record too.
The cherry.
The trip that walks down there to have lunch.
Well, and you guys probably don't see it, but people,
It's a traffic.
I've got a ton of people who walk from that side of the street over here to pay water bills.
Yeah.
So on the 7th or the 6th, we got a ton of traffic, foot traffic in front of City Hall as well.
As part of the other tools that you're using with the lighted designated speed sign and everything else, I mean, I think it makes sense to put them at all of these intersections where there's crosswalks. It's a traffic calming device anyway. It helps keep motorists aware that they need to go slow and be aware, so.
Now, the point that you brought up earlier was that if you're making a left-hand turn there, you're going to back up traffic behind you. You will get eviscerated as a board, and so will the city council for making that recommendation, because motorists get angry when they get stopped.
They do. But it's already happening to a point, and I was just curious if there was physically a way to go around it, because some of them physically go around anyway.
Yeah, the only difficulty is going to be, again, training them that they can't go through the delineators. Can a car go through them? Yeah, absolutely. Obviously not what we want, and potentially you're going to kill somebody if you do. The only way to prevent that is to do the full curbing, but we don't want to do that because of the projects we have coming up.
A lot of semis come out of Maple Street to Main Street.
Maybe they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. I would like to see some kind of sign, maybe down at the Tool and Die, and say, hey, there is, I haven't seen it.
Put a sign there at Second Street, saying truck route pointing that other direction.
They should be turning right there in that parking lot and going to Cherry.
There is signage there, they're told they have to exit and enter off of Cherry, and they're not supposed to come out there.
Yeah, what they do.
Well, we do get a truck, we get a couple trucks that come in on Maple too, so.
Yours on semis.
Ours is on
Sure.
Yeah, some. See, we will be having,
suppliers and distributors that are picking up.
the Main Street Bridge will be tore out
2021.
2021,
And a block north and a block south there.
in a block north and south, and that, in some respects, will cause people to go down alternate routes from Main Street. So, we may learn a new way that, and not come through downtown.
Yeah, Fifth Street's going to be motor speed, right?
Yeah, but with the bump outs coming in when we do the resurfacing of Main, and I would say Maple Street, Cherry, and Beach we can't because the northbound, there's not enough room there to put one. But we could probably put a bump out on the north side of Beach, I mean, south side, there's not enough room.
Yep.
But in effect, that would cause calming effect for 2 blocks. You have 1 block in the middle of each of those bump outs.
The problem with only doing it on one side of an intersection is now you got people who are going to try to pass on the right and realize they don't have space to pass.
Any other discussion on the traffic crossings or pedestrian safety? We can move on to correspondence.
Don't think we have any that I'm aware of.
City manager and the DDA director's report.
I guess the only thing I'd have to report is that the city is going to be holding a marijuana public forum up at the library on November 15th from 5:30 until maybe 6:30. I don't know how long it's going to take because I honestly have no idea how much talking is going to occur at this point. And then just today I set a second public forum for December the 12th from 5:30 until 7, which is immediately prior to the city council meeting. So for all the people who think it's a vast conspiracy to prevent deer hunters from having their say, that is not the truth. The truth was that I tried to set it the Saturday before and the library was already booked up. So 15th of November and the 12th of December, we'll be largely discussing what types of businesses, marijuana
December
businesses.
12th at City Hall or is it the library?
At the library, both at the library. Sorry, the city council meeting's at City Hall, but both at the library. Because I think the city council is looking for some direction and discussion on what types of businesses we might want to see here in the city. There are now, I think, 7 different types of businesses permitted by Laura's rules. There's also a question of how many types of businesses. I think Sand Lake said they're going to allow 2. Well, we're, 5 times the size of Sand Lake. So do we want to allow 10? 10 might be a few too many. I think if you look at the numbers that Grand recreational that they're gonna allow versus their population, it's 1 per 3,500 residents. Well, guess what? We're 3,500 residents, so do we only allow 1? Does that make sense? Then the third well, 2 other questions. One is, where do we allow them at? There's the B3 district, which is Main Street from the library north. There is the B2 district, which is the downtown area. And then there is the HC district out by the McDonald's and the 131. And then the industrial areas, that's for industrial businesses. And finally, the law does give the city the ability to impose reasonable restrictions on these types of businesses. Some of the restrictions that other cities are looking at are hours of operation. We can say you can only be open until 9 p.m. After that, closed. Signage restrictions. You can't use the word duty in your sign. Reasonable restrictions. So are there reasonable restrictions that the locals might want to see imposed on marijuana businesses? So that's what the discussion will be about, and a small educational portion where I've heard lots of people saying, I can do X under the new law. Well, no, you can't. So I'm going to try to educate the public a little bit about what the law actually says. That's all I got.
Sand Lake's only allowing dispensaries, are they touching any of the other licenses?
I just saw what I saw in the newspaper, which seemed to be 2 dispensaries.
Let's move on then to trustee comments. Start perhaps with Mr. Hall.
Thanks for everyone being here. We got a lot of stuff going on and more information to come. All good things.
I'll reiterate that and welcome Chandel. I haven't seen you before, so welcome with me. Thank you. You can tell she's so excited. Look for her, she's smiling.
She's concentrated.
Say thank you for everybody being here.
Thank you, and looking forward to safer crosswalks.
If we were looking for a meeting with the safety justice street, it's hard, the parking is limited on our side, most of them have to park across. So we can like sit in the same spot for 12 hours. Changing that, I would have, and everybody can, so. Yeah, don't just want to be cars. But I'm happy that everybody showed up today, and anybody that's making efforts to make this community grow, appreciate it.
Appreciate everybody's attendance.
Pretty big group, we get most all except Tom. Making a little bit of progress.
Got a little money, thanks.
Happy Halloween, happy trick or treating, hope everybody's checked out all the Halloween decorations downtown. I haven't voted yet, but I'm working on it. And don't forget to vote in November, we have 1 city councilor up here next year.
Maybe 2.
I'm really waiting.
Whatever. Okay, and, just wanna, thank the garden club for the joy of gardening. We really enjoy each other and how that garden affects people. It's like art. You look at it and it's just something that does something for you. So that's been a real happy time for me this year, to get to know those gals, and thanks for everybody.
Can I make one more comment here? Get both questions.
Sure, for you, Bernie.
I got something. Just a comment I'm gonna make, we're talking about the semis and all that stuff. We have a little, not an issue, but we have car carriers that come to Granite Heights North. And they're as big as semis, worse, and unfortunately, we either got our road and Mill Street, which is illegal, once in a while they do, or they turn in or back in to either side of Granite Heights. And I welcome it, because I gotta walk across the street. And whenever one of those trucks is there, I look, I see one, I say, perfect. And I run across, because the traffic is all slowed down. It's a wonderful thing. I can walk across the street, walk almost the street cars. Now, it's not that they stop. It's not a big deal, everybody waits. It's a 30-second, a minute and a half deal. but everybody's going slow with those trucks. I wish we were there all the time. That's my comment.
I went down the grader and just did it for fire, I pulled up the road, and ran out, walked across the street.
Well, it's a pain in the ass.
I just want to say, real quick, no, thanks for everybody for being involved. It is good to see the full collection of all of us gravel welders at one spot. I think the signs look great downtown, they're noticeable, and that I think gives a little bit of cohesiveness to all of downtown, having these consistent signs that look the same everywhere. So that's a visible sign of the work that we've done, and I think that that's awesome. So thank you all. And then go Red Hawks this weekend. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Get out of here.
So if you guys don't mind, I did the flower pot decoration contest each day. Didn't cost me rather.